Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
and I am Police Captain Tom. I've been promoted.
You've been promoted. We are Team Binge, and we are here to watch the Afterparty. If you are with us right now listening to this, we just did episode 8.
Yep,
The finale of the Afterparty. And now we're going to talk about it. And Tom, you got promoted to police captain. Can you tell us why you got promoted to police captain? Just read the citation, please, of your promotion.
I was very smart, very well detected.
Oh yeah, this is you're probably going to get demoted after this victory speech.
I don't have to write anything. No, I was very surprised. I didn't think it would happen exactly as I suggested. I think a couple of the bits that we even kind of called about some of like the phone stuff and some of his motivations, I think I was able to kind of catch. And it was fun seeing it all kind of come together.
Congratulations, Gumshoe or Police Detective Tom, whatever the heck we have to call you. He got it right. I got it wrong.
You got it second most wrong, though, because they tease Zoe very much.
They tease Zoe, yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, we don't know why you're here. But they gave us the finale of the after party. We find out who the murderer was. I thought this was funny how this episode started because they tickle you in the last episode that it's going to be Maggie's episode. Mm-hmm. And this one is Maggie's episode, but for just like 5 minutes. Yeah. You know, it's a very short, but it was a lot of fun. It was fun to watch Maggie's perspective of the night.
Yeah, I agree. And like Maggie's bits were all very much throwing all the red herrings out. So like the wig and what happened to Gen 2, it was all just covering all those bases to then get to Dana really delivering how it all went down, going to accuse everybody. So it was done really, really well.
Yeah, I liked Maggie's mind movie. I like starting off this way because you get like, it's a clever way of like revisiting the whole night in like a real quick synopsis, like wrapping everyone's story kind of together before Danner brings everyone into the living room and does the clue.
Yeah,
I'm going to explain who the murderer is. Oh, by the way, we're going to go on a couple of detours here while I figure it out on the fly.
Yes, make it very dramatic.
But this night was so much fun, to quote Maggie. Maggie's Mind movie is all enthusiasm, all innocence, and I like to think of it as a child that the world has not beat down yet. That Maggie's just enjoying things. And it was cartoony, but not a cartoon, which I appreciated.
Yeah, like when it comes and shows Maggie's name on the screen, it's like little balloons, all different colors, and all the music and sound effects as they're going on. Like, it was just really, really fun.
All the actors get to do this over-the-top acting, and Maggie providing the voices I thought was a nice touch, because I don't think anyone else's Mind movies, do they talk like they're quoting something and the person just moves their mouth, or was it only Maggie's version? Did they do that with some of them?
I think it was only Maggie's version. There might have been one or two little lines, but yeah, Maggie covers it all here.
For me, I had to think this was probably fun for the actors. They're like, okay, we got to do this scene again. This time you're doing it as if like a child is like miming you and then doing the voice.
Especially Brett. I love when Brett's like holding on to Maggie's hand and walking in the parking lot.
Marching,
like borderline skipping.
She's like, vroom, vroom. I asked for fruit snacks, and Daddy said okay, but then he didn't give them to me. This made me think, like, how often my kids have probably asked me for something, and I've been distracted, probably on my phone, or, I don't know, reading the dictionary, and I'm like, yeah, fine. And then I did not do it or did not provide it, and how much therapy when they're older they're going to have to go through. I do have a son that does not forget a single thing. Like
Steel Trap?
Yeah, he will be like, hey, you remember 7 days ago and 3 hours where you promised a printout of a video game controller? Yeah, I need you to print out that picture of that video game controller. All right, son.
But Brett didn't forget that she asked for fruit snacks because he brought that up in his episode.
That's
true.
Like,
she asked for fruit snacks, and I totally gave it to her because I'm the awesomest dad.
Best dad. So in his mind, yeah, he did. He's a better dad than he really is, which I think is probably true of most of us. The daddy punches the nice waiter, which was funny. So in his version, it's like the big bearded like dude, and it's a huge fight scene. And this one, it's just like a guy that's trying to take care of a kid.
Did you assume it was like security, right? He was fighting security in his as opposed to a waiter?
Oh, yeah, I guess it was security. You're
Yeah.
right. Okay. He just ends up in the catering area in his story.
Yeah.
Because he's like, meals up or whatever his last line is.
But the waiter is just like, hey, you're going to leave your kid in this, in the thing all alone, unattended? He's like, man, I cracked the window.
I cracked the window, which is a really good argument. He did crack the window. She is like, oh, I waited too long in the car. And this felt like very much a kid thing. Like, it was maybe 30 seconds.
Oh, wait, what? Like, the way they shot it, it was great because the camera's going down. It shows Brett leaving the scene. And then there's still people in the background.
Right.
So it's not like time is moving. It was probably 5 seconds of screen time. And then, boom, she's gone.
She's like, it was a really long time. So I decided to go find him. And then we see her version of like what adults do is kind of fun.
I love it.
So the Jens are playing patty cake. I appreciate when she goes in between their pregnant bellies. She like spins them and they don't miss a beat.
Yep, they keep
go
talking.
back to it. And then Puppet Walt. What did you think of the puppets that show up? I did not understand the puppet thing. Was this just Christopher Miller or whatever having fun?
I feel like it kind of was. There was no reason for it. Like maybe, I don't know, I was kind of trying to give meaning to it if those were people that were kind of comical to her or something like that. But they were just background ancillary characters. So I think it's just playing on her child innocence.
So you don't think they went by the Crank Yankers, like old
the Henson Studios
prop closet and pulled out the old puppets?
Probably.
Chelsea is dancing and she's having such a lovely time. There's a Ned puppet that gives the marker to Maggie, so she's the one that draws the kittens. That was funny.
Yeah.
She's very good. She's very good at face painting.
It was impressive.
Maybe she'll grow up to be a face painter.
Did we solve all of the writing on him? I think, right?
I think we solved diarrhea.
Who wrote nerd? He had nerd on the center of his face.
Oh, I don't know. That's probably Ned.
Okay.
Ned was probably trying to write his own name, and he accidentally added an R.
Oh, there you go.
You're welcome. We see that she's like, oh, I saw the man from my favorite movie. And we go into the clip of the hippo attack from Hungry Hippos.
And we talked about this earlier. We were hoping we would get more of this sequence because all it did, this was in the beginning where they were just showing Xavier's like background, right?
The clips of his like
showed
career.
Will Forte, and then I think it was them just screaming, but now we got a little bit more of the sequence. And he's like, we gave him this like drug to make him hungry. How hungry? Hungry.
So good. Will Forte, I didn't realize what magic Will Forte was doing. I thought we were in A Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings. But you pointed out to me, because we watched this together. We should have said that this is the rare time we got to watch something together. He made a what, Tom? What did he form with his hands?
He makes a perfect blue marble.
He makes a marble. What doesn't make sense to me, and this is what threw me off, is as a guy who wanted Hungry Hippos his whole childhood, never got it. I am in home videos. They're like, hey, what do you want Santa? Well, we didn't really do Santa. They're like, what did you want for Festivus? And I was like, oh, I want Hungry Hippos. Like every year as a child. Never got it. I think when I turned like 18, a friend got it for me.
18, wow.
Yeah. And then we got it for my kids. And the marbles are not blue or shaped like marbles. They're just white, normal things. So when he did the ball, that's why I didn't understand. Because like Hungry Hippo marbles are white.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe back in the day, like the OG Hungry Hippos. But nowadays, they're cutting back costs, just doing white marbles.
Now, are you throwing it in my face that I wouldn't know what the OG Hungry Hippos game would look like? Because I never got one as a child.
Listen, we got replacement ones every year.
Oh, really? Nice.
We went hard at Hungry Hippos, man.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're raised in a house of all boys.
You get Lunchables, and you get Hungry Hippos.
Oh, man. That's why we don't get along. You're a Lunchable person and a Hungry Hippo happy childhood kid. Maggie is so focused on retelling the movie that Danner's like, gotta bring her back, which is something we all have to do with our children, and it's typically when they've gone on a rant about what the history of a video game controller is like.
Speaking from personal experience.
Yeah, for everyone out there. Brett he sees her, or she sees him, and she thinks they're playing hide and go seek. Yeah, that's right. Brett sees her, thinks they're playing hide and go seek. She runs off. This is when she gets the wig and turns all the sound. Witch, yeah.
Nailed it. Called it. This should be the first of many I told you so's.
Well, I don't remember what your exact wig theory was, but was your wig theory that it was a red herring? Is that what it was?
I'm just saying that we found it on the prop. Yes,
that's right.
It was memorabilia wall. It was like an empty head or whatever. I'm like, that's probably where the wig was.
That's why you're the emperor of the police, and I'm not even a gumshoe yet. We also get the scene of her turning all the soundbar dials up to a 10, and she goes wild, and that obviously comes into play in the end.
Correct.
I don't think I paid enough attention during this show to watch the soundboard dials or where anything is at. But would we have known that? Because we only see it in her. Would we have seen...
No, I mean, they did a little cut because they had Danner put those little figurines or something on the deal, and that was kind of supposed to be showing us that, as a perceptive audience, you could have seen the dials up, but it was very loose because it was saying that he went in there and did something in the room or played his music.
Yeah, I'm not convinced Jasper the murderer.
Yeah. But I take that back. We did see Jasper like literally playing with the knobs in his... But again, he could have pulled them down off screen and then they come to it. But they do, I think, make a mention of Jasper actually playing with the knobs too.
Everyone knows that when you're done using a sound bar, you're supposed to turn all the knobs up to 10. That's
to 11.
Is it 11?
Well, Spinal Tap.
No, I know the reference. Okay. Man, we are on a roll here. I hope the dog barks again. Brett finds her, throws the wig off the balcony.
It's kind of a jerk move by Maggie here, no? Like, she's like,
she throws it off the balcony.
She just chucks it. He's like, he found me. And then just chucks it. Like, come on, Maggie.
There's going to be an age that your kids are that they just have a blatant disregard for all things. All things nice. All things not theirs. They will just throw it or smash it in some sort of attempt to know what it's like. So I'm not surprised by this at all.
If she wants to just throw it on the ground, throw it on the ground. But to throw it over the balcony where nobody's going to be able to like get that readily and clean it up, that's going to go into the ocean. That's going to get in some poor seal's mouth.
A loose seal's mouth.
Exactly.
I guess my issue with this is she can't see over the wall, so she has no idea what's on the other side of that. So justice for Maggie. I think she's fine. We see Puppet Walt again. We see Brett being a great dad. She tells Brett that Mommy was smooching Xavier, and that's when Brett uses his thunder voice.
Oh, that was so funny. It's like, how did Brett say it? Did he say it? Or how'd your daddy say it, I guess, because this was Danner talking. He's like, you use your thunder voice.
You used your thunder voice.
I love how he, like, stomps off, too, after telling her to, like, stay in the car. He literally does, like, a King Kong thing where his arms are going up and down.
And Maggie's like, I heard some screaming and I fell asleep. I thought that was great. Like, all right, so kids used to hearing screaming and then falling asleep. That's fun. She sees Gen 2's water break, and so we discover... I guess one thing I don't really know, and this is something I've recently discovered about myself, the footprint of the inside of a house... Like, I can't really understand how this house is, like, set up, because she's in the car... which faces the room with the amniotic fluid.
Yeah, it's like the foyer or whatever. So right when you walk through the front door, there's like that big circular table, and that's where her water broke.
So in the living room where everyone hangs out, because you can see down that foyer out the front door, you would be able to see Brett's car and Maggie in it from that living room, right?
Maybe. I don't know if it's a straight shot. Like Maggie could probably see to the front door into that first room, but she's not. We don't know for sure if she's literally parked parallel to it where she can see directly through.
I was just thrown off a little bit like by the whole I don't know, pathways of this house.
Yeah.
Which when it comes to home buying can be difficult.
Pathways?
Yeah.
Layouts.
I was wrong. People were slipping in baby fluid, not beer. I apologize to everyone. I said it was beer on the ground. Mm-hmm. They make a great point that this was baby fluid, and several people slipped in it.
And to those, I apologize. Yep, and to those that reached out to us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com that guessed this correctly, 5 internet points.
Oh,
each of you.
You're giving them internet points.
5 internet points.
That's pretty good. I hope they don't spend those internet points all in one place.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't spend them anywhere. That's what we've discovered.
You hold them over your friends. That's all you can do with them.
That's right. Danner asked Zoe how long she was away from the stairs to see kind of what gap it would be. And I think this is the point where we're done with Maggie's story.
Yeah. Well, Maggie kind of starts cutting it off because she thinks that
Brett's the murderer.
Yeah,
so
Brett's
Zoe
the murderer.
cuts her off.
So she's trying to kind of protect Maggie from hearing that her dad might be a murderer.
Right. And Culp still, I thought this was funny. She's like, oh, I'm going to tell everyone. And Culp's like, oh, great. Wait, who is it? Like, Culp still doesn't know, although Danner seems to have figured it out. We get everyone gathered in the living room. This is classic. Like, the genre of this story is fun for me in terms of you get everyone in the room. You, like, go down some paths. Oh, it might be this person. I might be this person. I thought the show did this really well. Like, because it's a trope. It's like, and I honestly, even after they nailed Jasper, I was still like, it's not going to be Jasper. Maybe. We're going to get another twist here. But it was, and I was wrong.
No, it's great. Like, and the idea that a police detective would get all the potential suspects in a room and explain every little thing of the potential murder without having the confession or anything is also incredibly comical, but certainly needed for the show.
And our volunteer firefighter is like, this is highly suspect to have everyone in the room, and you talk to all of us even though you don't know who's guilty or whatever. And she's like, you're a volunteer firefighter.
He refers to himself as a first responder. Like that is the call sign for...
We don't do it for the money, was his response.
He's a volunteer.
Which is great. This is about the time we get Gen 2's baby announcement. Mm-hmm. I do like how unengaged Gen 1 is. Like, she's like, oh, I just got the baby announcement. Like, the murderer's about to be announced, and that's what she cares about.
She's very focused on, like, whatever is coming up next. So once Danner starts saying it was this person, she's like, I knew it was that person the whole time. Next person, yeah, that's right. He wasn't in this room. It was that person. All she wants to do is just have that last word.
Yes, she is definitely a stand-in for me as the audience because I went for it every time. Danner starts with Chelsea. Mm-hmm. She's like, you're the last person to see him alive. You gave him those cat roofies. She calls it kitty cat juice, which is great. And there's a point where Jasper and Anik are like, what?
Yeah, trying to
pretend like they hadn't heard everything, which I thought was very funny. But then we quickly find out it's not Chelsea. Mm-hmm. He was pouring the flask out, so he was still alive when she left. Mm-hmm. And they bring up that it got in Gen 1's hair. And
go ahead, number 2. I told you so.
Okay, yeah, no, you did a great job. So you could, at this point, probably tell me you guessed all the stuff, and I'm not going to remember exactly what you guessed, but I do know you guessed Jasper, so I'm going to give you that one.
We had talked about, I think, in one of the episodes where when he was pouring it down, you thought he was just pouring it off the balcony.
No, I said it was urine. I said I thought he was peeing off the...
That's what she thought. Okay. She thought somebody was peeing on him, but we never had that. There was nobody that went into his room that was seemingly so drunk that they were going to pee off a balcony, and I think we thought about maybe he just poured it off like the far end of the balcony that just goes off into like the ocean.
Sure.
But he poured it off the side. Yeah. Which is kind of a jerk move. Xavier pours it off like the side that is his own balcony, just one balcony below or one level below.
Sure.
So that is what hit Gen 1.
I thought the wind kind of took it a little bit. I think there's a little bit of wind misting happening. Okay. And she's like, oh, so cat roofie drink is better than urine? And everyone's like, yes.
Yeah, sure,
most definitely. Way better. And then... the one girl, I'm blanking on her name, is like, well, other than in Europe. And I was like, oh, it's good that she got a line for this episode. So really her whole job is she just sits on the couch, and I don't think she says anything else other than in Europe, right?
She's just the casual observer. What is her name? Ingrid?
Yeah, Ingrid.
Something like that.
Augustine. St. Augustine.
Not the best detective. But we ruled her out early, so we didn't need to know her. She's like a Walt type. We don't need to remember.
Suspect. In the same way Maggie wasn't a suspect. I said to myself, I love when Danner does this. Was there enough time for someone else to go upstairs in a 1-minute window? And then she's talking about how whenever Anik woke up, there were 3 people not in the room. Mm-hmm. Those people were Walt,
me?
Maggie, and Brett. We're going to assume it's not Maggie because she was asleep. Mm-hmm. And Brett's like, she's 6, so probably not the murderer, which I thought was a great line by him. Not Walt. Did you know that this is what Walt was doing? Did you have any indication of this?
I'm going to say I did not tell you so on this one because I loved the way they did this because I think we did get the thing of them going into the bathroom, seeing the robe on the ground.
Was in the bathroom.
Yeah, but then later on the robe was on the ground. So there were it was a stretch for sure, but there were chances to get to this. But I
guess we were supposed to pay attention to the party episode and how much like Walt felt like streaking would make him.
Yeah.
And he was in a robe then. Mm-hmm. Now, did he bring his own robe, or do you think he stole a Xavier robe?
That looked more like a Xavier robe than it did a Walt robe. Okay. I think like it was satin or silk or cashmere.
Do you think he also brought a Bush Cheney tank top to wear afterwards?
I don't think so.
Oh man, Walt's weird. That's what I out of this whole show I discovered Walt. A lot of funny parts from Walt. Very weird, but that actor. Fabulous job. All that stuff was great.
We've determined he's a very socially awkward gentleman, even in high school, and seemingly didn't grow into, or I guess I would say into anything. He didn't grow out of his awkwardness.
Sure. Getting naked in front of someone is where friendships begin. That was one of his quotes.
I mean, that's how our friendship began, right?
That is how our friendship began all those months ago. That leaves us with Anique or Brett. This is where she gets to. It's either Anique or Brett.
And then Colt kind of points to his watch. He's like, "Listen, you gotta stop dogging this a little bit. You gotta get going." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then she says, "Boom! It was Brett." And then Brett just immediately freaks out. Whoa! Yeah, he does his Joey Lawrence.
Joey Lawrence. There's a reference. Ned can't believe the Brettster was the murderer. Yeah. I don't think he calls him the Brettster, but he has some bro name for him. He's like, no, he's so broken up about it. Yeah. Not worried about the murdered guy or anything, but he's broken up that his childhood hero, Brett, could murder someone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jasper. Oh, because I think this is where Anique's like, I don't think it was Brett. And Jasper's like, listen, it's either him or you. So maybe don't go off pretty sure. Yeah. Anique's like, oh, when I was waking up, I was a little fuzzy. I thought I saw him down the foyer with Maggie in the car in the driveway because that's the eye line of that foyer. Mm-hmm. Those are his exact words.
Yeah.
I'm still confused in the layout of this house.
Well, you could still see the foyer or whatever, like the main walkway entrance from the front door from where they were, but that doesn't necessarily mean Maggie can see all the way through. You don't know that car is, or where she's sitting in the car has a view all the way in.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. The layouts of homes are confusing. It's like one time I was in this house and it had a like basement sauna. It was in like, I don't know, like Minnesota or something like that. I'm trying to remember the town. It was like, Do you know what the name of the guy that plays Jermaine, what his name was in Vice? I think it was like Egan. Anyways, this house was in like Minnesota.
Something
it had a basement sauna.
Okay.
And you'd think a house with a sauna you'd remember the layout of.
I would agree.
I could not. In the same way, I could not remember what the layout of this foyer, as you keep saying it, is. Foyer I thought was something that you unwrap a candy.
Listen, I could be saying foyer completely wrong. It just sounded right in the moment.
It still sounds right.
Okay.
It still sounds very, very right.
I do appreciate Bert's reaction, though, where he says, like, stop saying it or I will kill you.
Oh, yeah.
To Danner, which is a bold play.
It's so great. It's so great to tell a police officer that you're going to kill them if they don't stop accusing you. This is also the point where Brett's like, Zoe, please tell them that while I'm a deeply flawed man, I am not a murderer. And Zoe can't speak.
She hesitates.
And this is where I actually thought that I was going to be right. I was like, oh, she's so upset that the father of her child is going to be wrongly accused of murder that she's like having doubts and like feeling guilty and like realizing she has to confess and take the blame for her transgressions. But that's not what happened, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, no, I could see that. You're wrong, but I could see that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Anique steps up. He's the bigger man. You know, he's a truth sayer. Mm-hmm. So he can't let Brett take the fall. He mentions that while he was listening to everyone's story,
yeah,
he originally thought when they were in high school and stuff that they were all selfish and judgmental people. But he realizes they all just need some help. And this is where everyone's like, you were listening in the whole time?
Yeah.
Which is twice now that Anique has given up that detail.
He's not very good at holding secrets.
No, he's not a very good liar.
He'd be a terrible murderer.
Yeah, but I guess that's why he tells them that it couldn't have been Brett. He's a terrible, terrible liar.
Mm-hmm.
Brett apologizes for saying he looked like the dad and Urkel from Family Matters if they had a kid. And I thought that was very funny. And not the first Urkel reference we've gotten from the show, right? Because we talked separate. About Urkel.
Yeah,
but it wasn't regarding this because we never heard this line.
No, which is funny too because Anik was like, I didn't hear that one. Like he offhanded says like he didn't hear Brett say it.
Okay, but it was a conversation between Brett, Danner, because Danner's like, don't make fun of Urkel. Urkel was the first person I knew with their own cereal.
So I think it was still in the Brett and Danner episode or when they were having their back and forth. So it's still in the same Urkel conversation.
Sure.
So there's probably more that was said, and because Anik was having conversations with Jasper or clearly multitasking while listening in, he must have missed this bit.
Brett volunteers to be a character witness for Anik.
Yeah.
And Anik's like, I think that boat sailed, man. Thanks. He's like, even though I'm going down, I don't want you as my character witness.
Yeah.
That's saying something about a person. Like, I'd rather go down for murder than have you as my character witness.
And this where like Anik has his little aside. He's like, man, it's okay, man. The door's closed. Wait, no, it's not. The door's open. The closet door. And then Danner's like, took you long enough, puzzle boy. Culp was freaking out. What's going
on? Yeah, that was me. I was Culp in this moment.
I love the full scream.
And then we get the clips of the closet door is open in Anik's. So what is determined is that someone went up after and hid in the closet after Anik's, or before Anik's. This is why I'm still confused. I had to write out the order of people. I'm like, wait, when was who in what room and why? And so I started to write it out. I was like, okay, the order of the people in the room was Zoe first.
Okay.
Right?
Think so?
Because then...
Yeah, Zoe first.
It Chelsea first?
No, Chelsea was at the very end because Jasper was in the closet when Chelsea came in.
Okay.
So it's Zoe first. Zoe's up there talking to him.
Okay.
Brett comes in to kind of confront him because he sees Xavier and Zoe talking.
Okay, got it.
So Zoe leaves. She gets a look in a mirror. Then she decides she's going to, rest of her night's going to be to herself. That's where we get her cartoony mind movie thing.
Got it.
And then Brett confronts him. As Brett's leaving, he looks in the mirror and says, like, yeah, I'm a better man. I didn't explode on Xavier, even though he's being a jerk. He leaves. Chelsea comes in. Chelsea has the back and forth. Well, actually, no. So before Chelsea comes in...
Jasper sneaks in.
Jasper's already in. So Jasper is in the closet at this point. He's getting ready to come out. Chelsea comes in to confront. Jasper comes back in and hides. Once Chelsea's done with their conversation, she gives a look at the mirror. She walks out. Then Jasper comes out, does a little light murder, and then leaves the closet door open. So when Anik comes in, he has to close the closet door to then see his face, and that's when he screams. Scene.
Okay, so in my mind, Anik talked to Xavier in his bedroom, but that did not happen. When Anik went up there, Xavier was not there. Dead. Okay. I think I know who murdered him.
Okay.
I think I know. I think I've got it now.
But I do, we had theorized the whole season about what's going on with this closet door. Everybody's looking at it. And I think my problem was I forgot it was a closet. I thought it was still some sort of two-way mirror and somebody's on the other side watching. But it was an Occam's razor thing like we talked about last episode. The more simplest explanation was it was just a closet.
Right. And
people were opening it up and down. And the very first episode, if we were being... we're paying more attention. We know very specifically that he closes that closet door.
I think what I wished I would have done is I wished I would have gone back and watched Anik's episode again, just to get first. All of those beats again. And I think maybe that would have helped because I know we talked about it. It was not on my radar as the most important thing in the world. And to be honest, I don't know that I was thinking that hard as to the timeline of when he was pushed. Let's just say I was confused.
But we talked about that a lot throughout these pods about the timeline. I think you were confused as to when he fell off.
Still confused, Tom.
Yeah. And you kind of kept saying, well, it couldn't be this person because he wasn't dead yet. But we've now definitively found out that he died when
Zoe.
The music came on. And that was the
distraction.
The distraction. Yeah,
right. So we couldn't hear his body sailing into the afterlife. Whoever it was is the person that was most upset about how their life turned out.
Mm-hmm. And she's staring at Zoe as she's saying
and
it.
I was like, I got it. Yep. I'm in.
And then they're saying the most cartoonish and fake story, which is like Zoe.
Yeah, the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it might have been Zoe.
Understandable. But watching this, as all these sequences were unfolding, like the longer they didn't mention Jasper, the more I'm like, okay, it's Jasper. Because like everybody else was kind of sprinkled throughout Danner's initial thing, and she completely ignored Jasper. There were no like little cuts to Jasper to see his facial expressions. Whenever they did that, it was always Jasper and Danique. So they're kind of trying to lump them together. Never anything accusatory kind of throwing at him. So
Got it. And I don't think I ever caught during the like replays of where Jasper comes from, where Danique wakes up. Mm-hmm. Like in his, he comes from one side. She says on all the other ones, he comes from the balcony. Mm-hmm. So 15-foot drop is not a small drop, by the way.
Well, and there's some fun things, and we'll kind of get to it as we Danner starts unraveling. But there's so many cool little like not Easter egg, but like clues that were given about how Jasper could have done all of this. So I think as you go through it, we'll kind of pop on each of them.
I really wanted this show to be the type where you couldn't have guessed the murderer based on paying attention. I wouldn't have felt so dumb, but I do feel dumb now. And honestly, the whole time I was just like, please do a twist where it's really Zoe. Please do a twist. I thought she was going to murder Danique in the car at the end, and I was going to be justified.
But like to me, like I was able to get it, and I had a couple ideas for clues that just happened to be right.
Rub it in my face.
But if it wasn't Jasper and it was Walt for some other clues or red herrings that ended up being, like, I would have been fine with it. Like I've had such a fun time theorizing and playing around with the show.
Listen, it's fun for you because you got it right. For those of us that got it wrong, not fun. This show's dumb. I'm out on it.
I'm done. I finished the season. I'm done. But I very much enjoy a show like this where you can kind of deep dive and hopefully like listening audiences enjoyed it too, being able to, you watch it once, half an hour shows, and then you can take another hour to like think about all the little things that kind of came in. And we had talked about this will probably be a show I'm not going to rewatch right away, but I will probably go back and rewatch this again in a year or two to kind of see all the beats and watch it through again because it was funny.
Right. What I think is fun is some people have mentioned to us that like they wouldn't have watched the show, but because we started talking about it, not to give ourselves any type of credit here, but like it's fun to like find a show like this that's not hugely popular.
Yeah.
I was telling Tom after we watched this, I went and looked up an article to kind of review the finale, and like there weren't that many articles, and the one I read, the person called Danner Tanner the whole article. So like even their editor or whoever like wrote it didn't care enough to like be like, hey, actually the detective on episode 8, the detective's real name is Danner, not Tanner.
After just having a specific episode for that character.
Yeah, exactly.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Anyways, we then start to have Danner, or Tanner, whatever you want to call her. She's making a dinner plate. She's like, there is some funny stuff as she's doing the explanation. It's like she doesn't stand still. She's like moving. She's tasting things. She's like, oh, that's cold. They're like, oh, it's been out for a whole day. Almost a day right now. But she discusses Jasper like snooping around, doing the AV equipment, which you called very early. Like he had access to all this stuff. And she explains why it is Jasper.
And I think her big thing and his biggest motivation was him finding the steal of or Xavier using the "how great is this party" line, and that was kind of like the crux of Jasper and like how he eventually kind of breaks.
Sure.
He sees it when he was kind of installing the AV equipment, sees it on the computer, says like, this guy's trying to like take over my IP, if you will,
right,
and confronts him at the reunion. And I don't think, we had talked about this too, at least I think all four of us, you, me, and our wives, that we didn't think going into it that somebody came and wanted to murder Xavier like at this party or at the event.
Right. It wasn't premeditated.
It wasn't premeditated.
It sounds like this came from his conversation at the bar.
At the reunion, correct. So it was premeditated after the reunion.
I thought Jean-Ralphio, Ben Schwartz, did a great job throughout this, like, where he's being accused. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, you've accused everyone else. Sure, give me my turn. Let's hear it. You've got nothing. Like, just the way he did that, I thought was, like, not, like, desperate or angry, but, like, you could kind of see there was, like, you're almost like, well, is he innocent? Because he seems pretty, like, he's confident. Like, joking about this, confident.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great. Jasper's like, we were friends. Danner's like, no, you were not friends. Yeah. And you don't think that.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they replay the Xavier and Jasper conversation at the bar. And Jasper, of course, won't bless his track, calls him a loser.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was interesting because, like, when you got Jasper's, he played it in such a way that I thought was believable. Like, Xavier, like, agrees to do it, but when in Jasper's retelling, he does it reluctantly. He's like, oh, he wasn't like, oh yeah, Jasper, I love you, man. Yeah, I'd love to bless your track. He's kind of like, all right, man, sure. Like, he does it.
What does he say?
He's, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
sure, whatever.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
You almost hit it on accident.
Yeah.
But Xavier still leaves this conversation saying, yeah, sure, whatever, but it's in response to Jasper saying, hey, man, don't tell anybody this happened, which is Jasper kind of like, in his mind, I might murder this guy later. Don't tell anybody this conversation happened. If you do, that could kind of hurt my potential alibi.
Right.
But to your point, I love the retelling of this because we only got this scene from Jasper's perspective. And this was a little bit, I don't know, kind of cheating for the show because nobody's telling this story. You don't get Xavier to kind of tell this side of it.
Right.
This is just kind of the show telling us
one perspective.
Yeah, this is what actually happened, even though we're not getting somebody that was there. This is Danner's interpretation, but clearly seems to be right based off of what we see here.
Right. Based on how much of a jerk Jasper is at the bar, Xavier is at the bar, I give Jasper permission to kill him. Did you find it troublesome that the name Xavier and Jasper sound so similar that it makes it confusing to talk about them?
Well, that's why it was the XYZ murders that we talked about. That theory I had earlier.
Good.
You thought it was Zoe.
Right after the La Brea Tar Pit murders. It's the XYZ.
I mean, do you think Xavier's response is really that crazy? Like, I mean, you probably didn't need to be as much of a jerk, but, I mean, that's who we have come to know about Xavier. But, I mean, Jasper was
a loser, Tom.
But Jasper was a clear jerk to him back in the day of, like, throwing him under the bus when he was just trying to change his image and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I think there's a difference between a high school kid and a grown adult male. I guess maybe you could argue Xavier's not a grown adult male. He's probably still a little bit.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice if he was more humble, but again, that is not this character, and I don't know if I'd go as far as saying, all right, he's free to murder.
It would be nice. This show would be very different if Xavier was like a nice, humble guy, like a genuine guy, and he got murdered. That would be very different.
Yeah, you kind of have to make him a lovable idiot, but to a point where you're like, you don't feel as bad that he got pushed off a balcony.
Are you saying you don't care that Xavier got murdered?
I mean,
Hot take. Tom doesn't care that fake pop star Xavier, Eugene Xavier got murdered.
I mean, he did try to coax Zoe up to his room by saying she can do the album art for his new EP.
Yeah, you're right. He's not a good person. Danner's theory on why Jasper killed him is he's going to release their track as a duet after he's dead, and that's what's going to launch his career.
Tupac style, which is funny.
Well, I don't understand that reference.
I think the idea was there was so many recordings of Tupac doing like samples or other bits after he perished that he was still seemingly releasing music years after his death.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was just still alive.
And that's also a running theory as well.
I appreciated the alibi selfie. We see him in front of the recording track.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that again. Called it.
Man, we should call you Called It Tom because you're calling everything.
But this was another use of the phone because Jasper is using his phone. They give us a camera angle and you can see his phone case, the green, the Jasper on it. So had we been more intuitive and found that little bit about the phone, that was one thing I feel bummed I missed.
I think the angriest I've ever been in my life is realizing I should have spotted the difference between Jasper's phone and Xavier's phone.
Yeah.
leaves me fuming. I am very upset right now.
It was tough. I mean, because he doesn't like hold the phone up to camera, and I mean, you see it afterwards.
I'm glad the show didn't do that, though.
Yeah,
I would be more angry with the show if they like telegraphed it hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with being stumped. It's so rare in my life that I'm stumped. Typically, I'm reading that highlights magazine. I'm spotting the spoon. I'm spotting the teacup. You can't get it past me. But then every once in a while, a show like this comes along, really sticks it to me. It's like Lasso when they turned Nate into a bad guy. Didn't see it coming. They didn't telegraph it.
Never.
That gray-haired jerk. The flickering lights bring X up, and that's Jasper. I thought that was an interesting thing. Like, hey, if lights were flickering in your bedroom, would you be like, oh, I need to go check that out? Or would you be like, oh, that's haunted, I'm not going in there? Or would you just enter guns a-blazing?
I think it was a combination of both, because he wanted to leave the conversation with Chelsea.
Oh, that's a good point.
It was a very weird conversation. Okay. It gave him an out, so he wanted to go up there.
But Jasper doesn't know that. I will give that, like, Jasper, for someone that did not premeditate this, has some really clever things that he does. Like, this is a well-orchestrated murder that...
Well, but he didn't premeditate it per se, but once he...
We're saying we didn't think he was doing it until he was at the bar at the reunion, right?
Correct. But I'm just saying, if he had... At the bar at the reunion, he's like, okay, I'm going to kill this guy. He starts thinking about all the different things about the house and the intercom system and all these little bits.
He's going to have to delete the footage. He's going to have to play the music video at the right time in order to get him... I guess deleting the footage was reactionary.
Yes.
But getting into the closet, hiding into the closet, playing the Scape Diem song at the right time.
He played that on the intercom. He goes to and once he gets out of the closet, he makes a little quip to him, and he goes to the intercom, and that's where he plays the music.
Yeah, but he had to have planned that out, right? He
did
to set that up.
That's why he was in the studio before. He was taking the alibi picture, and he was queuing up all that stuff to be able to be ready to play.
That's a lot of premeditation for a guy that is just an AV guy. You know what I mean?
Is he, though?
I don't know. He might be a mastermind. We do get to see, it's very satisfactory. We get to see Jasper throw a solid punch, hit Xavier in the face, and then push him off the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Of all things to die to, he dies to Scape Diem. How great is this party? I actually don't know what song it was, but
it was our high school. I think it was our high school version of it. So yeah, it was still playing.
Song. Tom. Good transition.
You can call me Song if you want.
Song, Tom. What's the best song to die to?
I mean, Stairway to Heaven.
Okay.
Probably not Staying Alive.
Because it's like, okay. My question to you is, like, Stairway to Heaven is like a long song, right? So is it like, oh, I get to die to a song, like, I'm like taking those extra minutes? Like, you don't want one of those songs that's like a minute and a half.
I was just really thinking quick. You taking a literal Stairway to Heaven, if you believe in that sort of thing.
Okay. Interesting. Because you think the song will get you there? If, like, nothing else you've done in life will get you there, the song will at least, like, God's, like, coming down to take you, and he's like, what's that playing? Stairway to Heaven? All right, I guess I'll take this guy with me. He seems like an all right fella.
This is why it's the most requested song in all of, like, concert
hospitals. Oh, no.
I was going to say concerts. People want it to be played.
Okay. Yeah. The correct answer is I Don't Want to Live Forever by Taylor Swift and Zayn. That's the correct song.
Wow, okay. What's the one they play in Thelma and Louise?
What?
It's like Thelma and Louise, and they like put in a cassette, and they're playing something as they hurtle off a cliff.
We're not going to get there. Okay. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen it. I know the movie, but I've never seen it.
Okay.
So let's let that one ride. You guys can email us that song at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Anyways. The other best song to die to is the national anthem of America. Jasper refutes. He's like, I've got text messages. And I think we called this. You know, we figured the text messages were all bogus, just the way he, like, wielded them and used them.
Yeah.
She's like, but Culp helped me crack this one.
Culp's like, yep. Wait, how so?
There was some funny Culp in the background. I don't feel like he did, like, he doesn't do a ton in this show. But, like, the moments he's in it are pretty funny.
Yeah, I loved him as a supporting guy. He was good.
Yeah. This is a callback to the Vaughn murder, which I was so wrong on. And I complicated this one, like, beyond belief.
You made zebras out of horses.
I made zebras out of horses. But the reason he got her onto the porch was by texting her, murdering her, then deleting it. So I was super wrong. But this allows me to realize that Tatiana, sweet, sweet Tatiana, innocent, non-murderer. I wonder what she's doing.
She was still in on it in some form or fashion, right? Because she was still kind of like...
No.
Iffy when they were talking to him at the costume shop or whatever. All right.
No.
Perfectly innocent.
I will not allow anyone to besmirch Tatiana's name.
But we were close. We were on the edges of this. We just didn't get there because we theorized it wasn't Danner looking at the open door, even though that kind of maybe played with it with the open closet door. Because Danner does say, like, hey, I'm going to tell everybody who the murderer is, gather everybody in the living room. I'm going to go and check up something upstairs. So she was checking the closet. But we knew it was something about whatever Culp told Danner, which is about the timing and all that bit. So we circled around it, but we didn't quite get there.
We almost solved it. Do you know what almost solving a murder is called?
No, what is it?
An acquittal. That's what it's called.
Touché.
Yeah, Yapper. I wrote Yapper on there. Dropped the S because he's a murderer. He knew the password to the phone because he's the AV guy. Listen, I don't know. Does the AV guy know the password to the phone?
Well, if you are a rich person,
I'm not going to pick this apart. Okay. I'm just going to go with it.
You're right. There are parts in this that are kind of silly, but the idea being like Xavier's like your grandma that doesn't know how to use his phone and work it, so he just gives it to Jasper and says, hey, set up the app, download it, do all the passwords, do all the things, so I'm good to go.
I did he's like, I thought you said downloading the new version would get these, and then shoves them over a balcony. Like, that's the last thing you got upset about was downloading an app. And
yep.
Yeah. We do get to see old Spider-Man Yapper drop 15 feet. That was pretty cool.
Now, Danner makes this comment. He's like, oh, you flippity gymnast hopping off this balcony, which I thought was great because it is a callback to Jasper's episode when Jasper is saying, this is how I entered the party, doing all these backflips and handsprings and everything.
So you got to wonder, did he enter the party doing that? Is he that, athletic?
Yeah. But they made that joke about, oh, he's not the body type for it. But, again, it was a cool little bit about... Yeah, he has some gymnast. Again, kind of throwaway. It's you'd never catch that as a clue about him jumping off the balcony.
Right.
The one thing I didn't like as much about this balcony thing, and again, this is us picking it apart, but when he jumps off the balcony, it's after Anique wakes up, everybody's looking at Anique, and granted, everybody's attention is at Anique, but there's Zoe and Chelsea are both looking at Anique, but their eye line is straight out towards the balcony.
Straight out towards the vehicle that Maggie's in. You're right, yes.
The other direction.
Through the foyer. I agree with you. That's how this house is. It's confusing. The car is in the ocean. Maggie is... I'm with you, man. The layout of this house makes no sense. I'll buy it.
My thought would be...
Sorry, I derailed it.
No, you're fine. That they would probably have seen him clearly drop from the balcony and kind of land below.
You don't think 8-foot Ben Schwartz dropping onto a balcony in the dark, someone's like, is that Batman? What's going on here? I guess 15 feet is not that big of a drop when you're 7 feet tall.
Hey, and good for him.
I'm not going to do that math, but it's not that far.
But good for him for not slipping on any prawns during that fall.
That's true. I don't know what mashed prawns is, but that's what he made when he jumped on him. That joke makes more sense if you know the term.
That's a good band name.
A great band name? Smush Prawns?
No, Mashed Prawns.
Mashed Prawns. I like it, yeah. Certainly a ska band name. This is when Anique starts to turn on his best friend, his oldest friend, old Yapper. He realizes that he is probably the murderer.
Have we ever established how close of friends were they? Were they hanging out on weekends kind of friends? Are they doing podcasts of Apple TV Plus shows?
Man, I don't know. I hope they pick a more popular network. I don't know. My thought was so they're best friends in high school. They live in the same area. I assume they still talk to each other when they see each other. Jasper's in on it in terms of he's like, yeah, you're here to meet Zoe. You probably wouldn't express that to someone you're not talking to, regularly. But he also doesn't know Jasper's car. So, I don't know. I guess maybe...
Yeah, probably just acquaintances. Maybe they're friends, but they're not hanging out every day kind of friends.
Yeah, I mean, mean, Anik's got all those puzzle rooms to build. I don't know. He's got a career, man. And Jasper, he's murdering people. So, allegedly.
Yeah, this is only the one we know about.
We have not seen, there's been no trial, so he is innocent until proven guilty.
Correct.
Because our justice system is flawless. This is where Anik brings up the security camera footage, and he's like, your phone, this is when he brought up the phone cases, and I got really mad because I should have spotted this stuff. But you called this, Tom. Old call it gumshoe Captain Police Officer Tom. Got it again.
This was one I was probably the most proud of all of the, like...
Of all the things you've done in life.
Yes.
This is the thing you're most proud of. I have the prestige. When I figured out the prestige, you have this. Congratulations. Welcome to the winner's circle.
Something just seemed off about the way he was kind of playing with the phone and his little quips and the timing of, like, the quote-unquote hack. It just seemed fishy to me. And again, I really wish I would have said, like, oh, that's because he's using Xavier's phone. That's how he's able to get into it. But I just kind of thought, he's a AV guy. Maybe he had the same software on his phone. He could do it with his own. Didn't even think to look at the case.
This is what I think is what makes Jasper one of the top murderers of our generation, is the fact that he is so cool under pressure. He's deleting footage while the two police officers are investigating. At the same time, he's like, oh, I'm going to tweet at the police department and tell them, hey, stop suppressing me or oppressing me. Like, he has all those funny lines. If I was this guy, I'd just be like white-faced, like, I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to go to jail. Instead, Jasper's cool as a cucumber.
Yes.
Pretty incredible.
Very well done for sure.
They talk about the phone memos, which I did not catch this part. I did not realize what Jasper was doing in the bathroom. He brings up the acoustics. I know that. But did you realize that was what was happening, or did that dawn on you at all at any point?
So I think the idea here is Jasper kept the phone, because this is clearly incriminating evidence, having him hold this phone throughout the entire evening.
Right.
But he, at some point...
Oh, I've got a comment about that.
Okay. But he, at some point, started listening to some of these memo notes and saw that that's how Xavier saved some of his song ideas, which we've heard throughout. He was in the bathroom with Brett singing. He was up in the room with Zoe singing into these memo notes. But that was, I think, really kind of interesting and clever, because in the Brett episode... that was when we had Jasper in the bathroom with Anik, and he did that whole thing where Jasper was like singing. He's like, oh, these acoustics are great in this bathroom. And in that same episode, we had Xavier say the same thing to Brett when he was singing a song there. And you theorized, you're like, why are they both saying the same thing about acoustics in bathrooms? That's really weird.
Right.
And now it makes sense, because Jasper probably listened to that specific note about them being good acoustics in a bathroom, because Xavier recorded that earlier in the night.
Right.
So now at this point, Jasper has access to it, and now he was kind of doing the same thing and kind of like repeat his idol, if you will.
So the fact that I brought that up probably puts you and I on the same plane in terms of guessing who the murderer was.
Super close. Super close, yeah.
But like, would you say one of us was like closer than the other?
If we want a seesaw, you'd be on the bottom.
Oh, seesaws are dumb.
But you'd eventually be on the top, but then you'd be back on the bottom.
And that's how seesaws work. Thank you, Gumshoe Tom.
Detective Captain Gumshoe Tom.
Why does he keep the phone? Why would you keep the phone?
It's all the... Yeah.
You don't have an opportunity to get rid of it at any point. These guys are hiding in bathrooms. These guys are like free reign of the house. You couldn't like drop it between a couch cushion at some point? That seems logical to me. Phones get lost in couch cushions all the time. Goldfish crackers get lost in couch cushions all the time. Library books. I'll keep going. Keys. Did I say cell phones?
Loose change?
No, we don't. We're not a cash house. We're all gold and credit here, which I know. And crypto.
You keep your cryptocurrency.
Crypto. Sometimes the crypto falls between the cushions. I don't know what crypto is, Tom.
It shows. But no, I agree. It's incriminating. But I think the idea is Jasper's like, okay, I've got this one track that I can use. How great is this party? And that can be like the tribute duet track that they can do. But he wants to be able to steal some of Xavier's other fire, like his other songs. And so he wants to be able to have stuff, in the next couple months, weeks, whatever, to be able to kind of form a full-on album, probably.
Listen, I don't think this is the first time I've given murderers advice on this podcast, but I'm going to continue to do it. I think we're changing the name of this as the Murder Advice Corner. Get rid of the phone. Get rid of the evidence. Like, Don't keep the murdered dude's phone on your body. And certainly don't leave the ringer on. Come on. That's crazy. Put it on vibrate.
Yeah, he was doing good phone stuff earlier with the Culp and everything else. So, yeah, failed here.
The most painful moment of the whole episode was when Jasper goes, listen, I've got my own phone and a work phone. Is that so crazy? Have you ever had a work phone and your own phone? Have you ever had to carry around 2 cell phones?
It was miserable.
Listen, there is nothing in life worse than having to carry around 2. I'll go on record. Nothing in life is worse than, as crazy as the world right now, the person that's suffering the most, the person carrying a work cell phone and a personal cell phone. You can at me at Team Bitch.
My wife just got a new job and she's got 2 cell phones.
Oh no!
She's pretty bummed.
Oh no! I feel her pain. That's too bad.
But I do appreciate that Jasper says, like, one is a work phone and one's for friendship, and now everybody's off the friendship one.
And it's good. I felt a little bit for Anik here, because I guess we don't know how good of friends they are, but it's got to be tough to be like, you murdered someone and we were hanging out all night?
Yeah.
That's a little bit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate that all these, like, murder type shows have to have like a gotcha moment. And the gotcha one in this is turn the ringer on, put it back in his pocket. Do you have Xavier's phone number? Let's call it. And it's like, if you're Jasper, you don't just stand there and like wait for it not to call. Like, and it's very funny because it rings in Jasper's pocket, and what does everyone do?
Just absolutely celebration. Like a touchdown was just scored. Everybody screaming. Jennifer 2. Jennifer 1. I knew it was Jasper the whole time.
Yeah, it's very funny. Very funny. Jasper tries to run. He's like, you all forgot about one thing as he's telling his story, as he works his way towards the door, which has eyesight out to the Mustang, because that's how this house works. Jasper goes for it, and Culp drops him like a sack of potatoes.
Did you see it coming?
Him running?
Him making the run?
I thought so, yeah.
Right when he starts monologuing and then walking through the crowd, I'm like, okay, he's headed towards the door. And I love the way it's monologuing and he, like, the music cuts, and then he runs.
You all that one thing. And then it's like a Steve Martin, like, I don't know, that type of comedy.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. It was good to see Culp break him in half. Jasper explains to him. Once again, Ben Schwartz does a great job through this whole episode.
He does, yeah.
He's like, hey, man, you were never supposed to get accused. That wasn't part of the plan. And Anik's like, a friend wouldn't do this. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wait, a friend wouldn't do what? Wouldn't murder? So no murderers have ever had friends in the history of the world?
I mean, you can have friends, but I mean, I don't think you keep that from friends.
Oh, you have to tell them.
You got to tell them. If
this
you
is
run
why
a true
you'd be
friend,
a bad murderer, Tom. Back to Murderer Corner. If you murder someone, don't tell your friends.
Well,
this has been Murderer Corner.
This is why you're a bad friend, because you haven't told me about your murders. You've applied a lot of murders on this show.
Is this Friend Corner or is this Murder Corner? Because I'm doing Murder Corner. Okay. You can do Friend Corner.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, Danner offers Anik a job to solve crimes.
Yeah.
And Anik's like, I don't know if police is really my speed.
But they kind of do this bit where they exchange cards. Like, Danner gives him her card, and then Anik's like, here's mine. It's kind of damp.
It's really wet.
It's been wet a bunch tonight. But I almost thought maybe if this is, because we do know that this show has been picked up for a season 2. My thought would be it's kind of more like anthology series where it's going to continue to follow Danner on maybe some next Hollywood murder.
Sure.
And bring in a new cast.
None of them. Like, it's a whole new cast.
Yeah, it could be completely rewritten. But
sure.
I thought this could be potentially a little Easter egg for how next season might be. Because maybe it's going to be Danner solving another crime, and maybe in the last episode she brings in Xavier. Or not Xavier. That's going to be tricky. She's going to bring in a
prequel. It's a prequel. When Xavier is the hungry hippo detective.
Yeah.
We get to see that whole movie.
Oh, I do want to mention, I did pause it when they were going towards the hungry hippo posters in Maggie's bit. If you look at the very top of the poster, it says, from the same producers that brought you Legal Beagle.
Okay, so maybe there's all right. Maybe it's been Vaughn the whole time. I hope it's not one of those shows where the first episode of season 2 is it wasn't Jasper, and they have to revisit the whole time. I'm talking to you, White Cliffs, or whatever that. What's it called, Tom?
It's called Broadchurch.
Broadchurch, thank you. We got there. David Tennant. I knew his name the whole time. I never thought it was John Tennant. Anyways, if they do a season 2, they better have Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and I hope Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson play it straight and everyone else plays it goofy, and it's True Detective season 4, because that show's great. And I hope Timothy Oliphant's in it as well. That would be my dream. We get another amniotic fluid slippage, or baby fluid slippage, which really just rubbed it in my face. It rubbed baby fluid in my face. Because I thought this was beer slippage, but it was not.
Oh boy, that's some words.
Yep. Jasper's really happy to be famous. He goes from like, oh, I'm a bad friend, I'm sad, to, oh, they're all like cheering for me. I don't think they're cheering for you. Although I do think he will get letters in prison from some lonely people.
For sure. Yeah, because he sees all the camera people out there. He starts doing a little bit of singing as well, which is pretty great.
I did appreciate the captain being like, I think the last word, well, no, not the last words in the episode, but the last words of this scene are, shut the bleep up to Jasper, who's singing.
And we do get that guy come in. I can't remember his name, but when Jermaine and the captain come, this is the guy that played Todd.
Danny of Eagan, Minnesota is his name.
What?
Danny Eagan of... Oh, you're talking about the police captain.
I'm talking about the police captain.
Sorry,
yes, sorry. Because we heard his voice in the first episode, tells Danner, like, hey, you're not on this case.
Last man on earth guy,
yeah. Last man on earth. So I thought it was fun to have him come in.
Oh, it was good to see Jermaine. I like Jermaine. I hope Jermaine's in season 2. Him and Mad Dog team up. It's Mad Dog and weird, handsome movie star fella that works on Justified. Culp steals that memorabilia. I thought that was fun. He's like, oh, one sec, Captain. And he runs back in there.
I thought he was going to take the Hungry Hippos hat. What does he take? He takes like an album?
He takes an album with a platinum album. Yeah, yeah. Something that's worth money, not a safari hat that you can buy anywhere.
Yeah, but the safari hat from Hungry Hippos, man.
I don't think, other than Maggie, I don't think there's a bidding war on the hat for Hungry Hippos. Jen, I thought this was great. I thought this was wonderful. Jen, just being a nice human, apologizes to Chelsea. She's like, hey, I haven't been nice to you. She's like, friends. Chelsea's like, no, I don't want any part of you. You're terrible. Mm-hmm. I thought it was great. You don't have to be friends with everyone. I would never tell my kids this, but in 10 years when they listen to this, you don't have to be friends with everyone. Because some people are just terrible. You don't have to be friends with them.
I would argue the majority of people are terrible.
Well, that's where we differ. I'm an optimist, clearly, and I think there's good in, 3% of people, where you're probably at 2%.
But yeah, I agree. I like the way the show did this because it gave us, not a lot, but a little bit of closure on some of these characters.
Sure. We find out that Brett's the real hero.
Jeez.
Walt's birthday happens.
Oh, Walt saying it was his birthday.
Great. It's my birthday.
Well, no, because, so this sequence starts with, like, Chelsea's walking off after telling Gen 1, I'm not going to be your friend. And then Walt kind of says something, and Chelsea goes back. And Chelsea was the first one to say, hey, Walt, and like actually say his name. We were talking about whether they would actually ever say his name. And she's like, after tonight, everybody's going to remember your name. And
which I don't think is true.
No, it's not. Well,
it's a nice thing to say.
The people that were there will probably remember his name.
They were already calling him this guy. Jasper's like, and this guy got accused, which is so good.
But then that gives Walt like the confidence, if you will, to say, yeah, and it's my birthday. And then nobody says happy birthday, nothing. I think even when Culp walks out of the house with the memorabilia, Walt thinks he's giving it to him, but he's like, nope, all right, cool, man, no big deal.
He's like, yeah, I thought that was a gift for me.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Love Walt.
And then they take the murderer's rental car off the premises, which...
Bit odd.
Questionable about the police's evidence taking technique that you're just going to let the murderer's car leave the scene. There's probably a body in the trunk, maybe Gen 2. We have no idea where Gen 2 is. Well, we've never discovered where Gen 2 was. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention during this whole show. I still think Zoe's the killer.
Clearly.
And that's why she kills Anik, and then he dies from poisonous lipstick. And that's why you don't kiss outside of wedlock. Boom. It's been 24 hours. None of these people have showered or have toothbrushes, but these two decide to go on a date. I was bothered by this.
It hasn't been 24 hours.
Have you ever stayed up all night and like your body just feels like gunk because you haven't gotten to shower or anything? Have you ever stayed up all night? Have you ever seen the sunrise, Tom?
Dude, I'm in my mid-30s. I go to bed at like 10.
No, I know, but in your life, have you ever stayed up all night?
I mean, I have, yeah, when I was a youth, but that was like probably like middle school kind of thing.
You're playing Halo all night with your buddies, and then at like 8 a.m. you realize what you've just done for the last 14 hours. Were you like, oh, I really want to kiss someone right now? Or are you like, oh, I'm covered in Cheeto dust and Mountain Dew spillage. I need to go take a shower.
Well, that's what Anik says. Anik's like, I don't know if this is the best time. Like, somebody just died tonight. We've been through a lot. And then Zoe's like, well, when would it be? What, a week? And then he just goes for it.
He goes for it.
I don't have any issue with it. No toothbrush, no shower. I mean, these people didn't they didn't go to bed. So they don't have like...
New scenario.
Okay,
You're up all night. You haven't brushed your teeth. You haven't showered. And there's a gentleman whose name you don't know in the back seat. Do you then kiss? This was a great bit. Unrealistic. Like, there's no way they forget Walt's not in the backseat. Is he hiding? Is that why they don't know he's there?
No, they probably had a conversation there. Like, hey, do you want to ride? Walt's like, hey, can I get a ride home? They're like, sure. But they don't acknowledge him after that. There's nothing else.
They forget he's there.
It's just such a great
They're
finish.
so in love.
And you can see, I wasn't sure in the first watching it second time, you can see his silhouette before he speaks up. So you can see him in the back of the car before he says, oh, sorry, guys. I know this is not a good time. Can take me home now or later. Great way to end the series.
Yeah, it was great. And then the credits kick. And the song that plays, I don't know the actual title, but based on the lyrics, I'm assuming it's I'm Gonna Live Forever by Xavier. And it mentions getting thrown off the balcony and never dying. It was really good.
He's like,
it's a catchy tune.
I've got enemies. Nobody's going to push me off a balcony.
We call that a slanting rhyme.
I'm going to never RIPing. Just great. It's got some lyrics, and it's worth going online. I think you can watch a quick little video of it.
And it feels like they actually got Dave Franco to auto-tune sing it, which is a lot of fun. So, shout out to him. I enjoyed the series. I'm glad we watched it. I would say out of 8 episodes, there was only one where I was like, all right, what are we doing here? Which was the cartoon episode. But I did appreciate, like, when they do the flashbacks on top of each other and it like shows the scene from everyone's episode, they put the cartoon one in there too.
Yeah.
So it was like trying to show where Jasper came in from, and so it like did a scene on scene on scene.
Yep.
And one of them was the cartoon one. I thought that was great.
I think when you could see that too, it gives you that perspective too from a cinematography standpoint, where each one has a different aspect ratio as it goes in there. And I think they tried to do it in this finale, is like meld a lot of those different genres into this final episode, which I thought was awesome. But yeah, again, I just thought this was just so much fun, and like the idea and the concept of the show. I mean, murder mysteries are murder mysteries. Like, they've been done 1,000 different times, but I love the genre bending. I love the way they separated each of these. This was 8 episodes. They were about half an hour apiece. So, I mean...
Oh, bring back half-an-hour TV shows.
Yeah. And again, it was a tight episode. You could have done more. I think you could have gone away... I think you still needed to do Zoe's. You probably didn't need to do Danner's. That really didn't do much for us, even though it was interesting to get her backstory and understand why she didn't want Jermaine to get there. I don't think you really needed that. I think that slowed the momentum down a little bit, but definitely gave us more motivation for her. And if season 2 is going to be more of her character, I understand them wanting to build up her role a little bit more.
Have you done any research? Do you know if she's involved, or
I don't know. All I know is that they've announced that they're going to do a season 2.
I'd be surprised if they bring like the same. It would be fun if they brought the actors back but made them play different characters. That would be fun,
like American Horror Story kind of a deal.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Sam Richardson's great. Ben Schwartz is great. Haddish is great. So I would watch them all, but like doing different parts, which would be fun.
Because I think you could have done maybe a Gen 1 or a Ned episode, because like they're very much in their own thing throughout the episode, but they probably solid enough. There could have been some extra fun clues and things they could have done with it. But again, this was such a fun show to podcast with you and just to theorize. And again, anybody in our audience that reached out to us and kind of played along and didn't spoil it for us, because I know we were a little bit behind, and we appreciate that.
Yeah,
and,
we do.
Had a fantastic time with this show.
Tom, I also appreciate you watching this with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. Maybe next time we'll pick a show that you can actually detect something from.
Like True Detective. Let's watch season 1 of True Detective, because I've got that one figured out. I've watched it 3 times.
I was going to suggest The Prestige, but I've
got that one figured out too. But for those of you that have joined us on this journey, thank you. We are still holding out for Ted Lasso season 3. If you watch something or you think something would be in our wheelhouse, you're welcome to suggest it. We have taken suggestions in our downtime between Lasso and Lasso. But you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com.
Yep. Find us on the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, @teambinge.
I've been Julian.
And I've been Gumshoe Tom. Thanks again, everybody.